Good evening, everyone. This is Mitchell Prettyman, and I will be hosting the podcast Love and Knowledge for you. What are we doing here today? We're examining the two most potent forces against human nihilism. You say nihilism? Yeah, the belief that nothing matters, that nothing means anything. The point that we get to when we don't know what to do anymore with life. When we don't think there's any more. And I'm here to tell you that there's always a way through that. And that's basically the premise of this podcast. I serve people best when I'm talking to them about how to get through their hardest moments. And in my experience, it comes down to renewing your love for existing. And it's just like, you may say, not at that point. That's all right. We're going to go over so many different things that at some point, you're probably going to be grateful that you picked up this podcast. But anyway, first things first. Who the heck am I? Well, I'm a human, just like you. I'm a being that thinks a lot. One of my first questions to my mom, one of my first big boy questions was, how many galaxies are there? I just gotten done watching Star Wars, and that part in Empire Strikes Back at the very end where they're on the outside of that. I was just like, I looked at that. I knew what it was, but I didn't know how many there were. It's like ever since the beginning, I've asked the big questions, and the biggest yet simplest questions I think are the ones that help us through the darkest moments. Like right now, for example, we got wars in Ukraine, we got wars in Israel. Things are going crazy in the markets, It's like we got people left and right consumed by greed, trying to control every aspect of life. And I'm here to tell you, life works best when you're not trying to control every little minute detail. When we're so afraid that we have to control every outcome, it's like trying to control a river. It's trying to control something that is bigger than yourself. And we're not really meant to do that. It's like being a surfer, It's like we're sitting down on the edge of an ocean and waiting for the waves to come. And it's and we get all bent out of shape, when we're not catching, the perfect sets. And it's just like you just want to will the waves to come to you. When really you should just be enjoying, sitting there on your board, soaking up the sun, feeling the swells, hearing the birds, talking to your buddies, whatever. But really, it's just trying to control life is like trying to control the waves. And it's just with weather mods and all that kind of stuff, yeah, maybe we'd be able to do it, but sure as heck gonna mess it up or cause way more damage, than good. And it's getting back to this metaphor, we're not here, to control life. We're here to ride the wave. That's what we can control. When the wave comes, ride the wave. Don't complain about how big it is, which way it's going, all that. So you get your wave and you surf it. And then, you try to understand what happened, why it happened, all that stuff afterwards. You review it. You get better. You get back out there. You do it again. It's just every life is you caught that one good wave and you're riding it in. And it's just outside of the moment, It's just like, it's where we run into most of our problems. It's like outside the moment is anxiety. Outside the moment is depression. It's like anxiety is living too much in the future. You're anxious about what's going to happen. You're afraid, fight or flight's engaged. Like, death is around the corner. And, it's just like understanding our place in the world is paramount to overcoming nihilism and fear. And it's just like overcoming depression, bringing yourself out of the past, It's just like when we live too much in the past, it's just like we get depressed. It's just like, it's just like nothing went right. It's just like, I've just been thrown around, on the waves of life, and I haven't caught my wave, and it hasn't been good. It's just like things happen in life is the bottom line. It's like we don't always know what's going to happen, but what matters is how we see it. Our perspective is one of our most potent weapons, in our journey through life. It's just like perspective itself, it is able to shift how you see something. And when you shift how you see something, it shifts your behavior. If something bad happens to me, like, I get cheated on or something like that, I end up in a breakup, it's just like I get fired from my job, like, my business goes belly up, things like that. It's just like, I could look at it like, oh, life is getting me down, or God's, just, taking a dump on me. And it's like, you could look at it like that. You could look at it like all of this betrayal was done intentionally to just make you feel bad, because you're so focused on the feeling, And it's just like, yeah, loss does that. But if you shift your perspective and see loss, as a tool, instead, it's like, see it as, this happened to me. What lesson is life trying to teach me? Instead of, oh, like life's just trying to hurt me, It's just like, because the point of life is to live, is to survive, is to thrive in any circumstance. It's like, you ask any bacterial culture, like, oh, all this stuff happened to you. It's just like, are you going to give up? No. It's just like, it's one driving force in simplicity is to live, to survive, to adapt, to thrive. It isn't sitting there spending time complaining, when you hit it with antibiotics, or when another bacterial culture comes up and is, trying to get up on it. It moves on. It goes with the flow. It doesn't fight the river. It doesn't try to control it. It adapts. Bruce Lee said, be like water, my friend. We've all seen the video, where he's just like, you pour water into a pot, it becomes the pot. You pour water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You pour water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. I think it's a pot ties, but whatever. Be water, my friend. And it's like, that is a very profound statement, in that you are water. And when you do not adapt to the situations you find yourself in, you're denying your nature. It's like when you get all bent out of shape and sad and you get all rigid, it's just like, it's like you're operating at a low energy wavelength. It's like almost like you're behaving like ice, which is our prerogative. When energy is low, you become rigid in your ways. You can become stuck. But when everything heats up again and it breaks you out of your mold, you could cry about being broken out of your mold, or you could become liquid again, or gaseous even, hyper adaptive, rising above it. And it's like that particular aspect of life, is what we're really going for. It's like, I do life coaching, and I do life coaching because I, number one, know how to talk. I know how to hold a conversation, and I know how to see the brighter side in things. And that's because in my life, I have overcome so many different things that I no longer see most of the things that happen to me in a negative light. It's like, yeah, it happens. Yeah, I may feel bad. But at the end of the day, what's the lesson? What am I being taught? Where do I need to up level? You know, and it's just like when you start shifting your perspective and then you start saying it over and over and over and over again to yourself, that particular ability is so helpful. It raises me up head and shoulders above anything I have ever done. And it wasn't like a distinctly overwhelming power. It wasn't money. It wasn't people. Even though all of these things have their merit, it was myself. It was shifting my mindset that allowed me to change, to adapt, to become fluid enough to cope with the changes in life. It's like the one constant in this universe is change. It's like you look all around us, nothing is permanent. It's like the law of mutability. It's just like from year to year, like from moment to moment even, it's like things change position, things change shape, things change form. It's like energy is neither created nor destroyed, you know? And we, you know, as a species, change. It's like we sometimes get so zeroed in on the moment or so zeroed in on life that we're like, oh, it's just like it's been like this for a little bit. It's like it's never gonna be different. It's just like we are the pinnacle. We are the only thing, you know? We're this frozen aspect, you know, because it's like the security of the familiar yields comfort, you know, because change isn't comfortable. But when we get comfortable with change, everything becomes easier. Everything becomes more fluid. And that's where we need to be, especially at this point in time right now. It's like at this point in time, it's just like Ukraine's popping off. Like, you know, Israel's popping off. Like, people are at each other's throats. Democrat versus Republican, conservative versus liberal. You know, all of these dichotomies, all of these dualities, you know, are rising to the surface. We're polarized. And, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because when things get polarized, energy is transferred. It's like if you study physics, if you study chemistry, if you study biology, you will understand that. So I got my degree in bio, like my undergrad. And it's like that was one of the most distinct lessons that I learned from physics through chemistry into biology was activation potentials. And it's just like, and usually there is some form of opposition, some form of resistance. It's like when light gets created in a sun, you know, in the core of a star. It's like there is, I think it was 10,000 years it has to go through, like all of this resistance where this photon is bouncing around and bouncing around and bouncing around against all of these other atoms until it finally makes its way out to the surface and can shine its light into the cosmos. And it's just like, that's just like us. It's just like we're billions of years in the making, maybe older. It's like we can only see like what, 14, like it's like 14 billion years into the past, something like that. But at the end of the day, it's just like it's been a long time coming that you're even here. So why not enjoy it? Why not use it to the best of your ability? It's like sometimes we get so caught up in our feelings that we forget to live, you know? And it's just like this podcast is about helping you get through that. It's uncovering different aspects of knowledge, going over the ancient texts maybe, or studying what we're learning now, going into what people experience on psychedelics, what do people like experience in relationships. It's just like, to me, it's like living itself, being a human. One of the paramount experiences is relating to other people. Love, the other aspect of this podcast. It's like, when you really break it down, it's like love is why we're here. It's just like everything, the universe itself has been broken into shards, separated. Everything in the universe, as far as we can tell, is moving away from itself. It's like it's in an explosive phase. And I believe that that's why love, conceptually, is one of the most powerful forces in life. Love is a connective force. And to be able to connect in a place that is disintegrating, becoming separate, is the next logical step. It's the next physical operation of the universe. It's like, once it reaches that point where everything goes all the way out, I believe the next logical step is for it to come back to itself, like a breath, like a torus configuration. I don't know who's familiar with the torus, but it's a structure in nature that is intrinsic to every atom, all the way up to every galaxy, whether it's the field of an atom or the field around a molecular structure, or the field around an organ system, or a bacteria, or a human body, the bioelectric field, or a planet, our magnetosphere, or the heliosphere around the sun, or the galactic, I don't know what the galactic one's called, but there's a field around galaxies even that then connect to other galaxies electromagnetic bridging, and it's like, and it goes all the way up. And so it's just like, to me, it's just like that kind of thought, that kind of thinking is like, it's like what is the word I'm looking for? Like a homogeneous, like a convergent structure between all things. It's just like, as above, so below. It's just like, with every tiny atom, it exists. With every galaxy, exists. So why not the universe itself, existing in that same way? It's just like, it's gonna go out, like through the, like, it's just like, as the torus is like a donut, and it's just like, it's gonna explode outward. Like, the top of the donut is gonna go along the perimeter of the donut, get farther and farther and farther apart, and then its reciprocal is to, once it's reached that apex, come back together, and who knows, maybe reconfigure, go through the same process in a slightly different way. And it's just like, that's one of the like lessons in life that I really like. It's just like, it is the same, but it's different, It's just like, they have a saying in Asia. It's like, my buddy Paul Steeman Neiman turned me on to this saying, but it's same but different. It's just like, yeah, life is the same. You've seen it all, whatever, but it's always going to be a little different. It's like, it's never going to be exactly the same. It's never going to be exactly the same person, exactly the same configuration of events, exactly the same, configuration of molecules staring you in the face. And it's just like, and that's beautiful, And it's just like, throughout time and space, it's like, we go on and on and on. And, it may be similar, and you may pick up on these similarities. And at times, those similarities may, bug you. It may get you down. It may put you into like a logical loop of perception. But at the end of the day, it's beautiful in that it breeds a certain sense of comfort, a certain sense of familiarity, like an eternal feeling, an eternal there-ness that will always exist, you know? And it's just like, and I feel that that is why, you know, as life forms, we die, you know? It's just like, what's the purpose of death? It's like I used to be obsessed with immortality, just living forever, you know, just like not wanting to lay down the body, you know, because I was afraid. I didn't know what was going to happen, you know. It's just like, even though I've been raised highly religious, it's just like I came to a point in my life where I started questioning everything, and then it was just like, nothing matters. Does everything matter? Like, I need to figure this out. And because I didn't know, you know, it was like I needed more time, you know, it felt like. But it's like the more I've studied life, the more I've studied myself and others, it's like the more I'm not afraid. You know, the more I look at life, it's just like the more I look at nature, the more I understand that there's no need. It's just like we will always be here, you know? It's just like we're always gonna be a part of this. It's like there's no getting away from it. It's there's what exists and there's nothing else. You know, and it's bound intrinsically to itself by the fact that it exists. You know? And it's like, and the template of your existence is intrinsic to the universe. So it's not a question of if you're coming back. It's a question of when you're coming back. You know, but the configuration, you know, may be different. Like the scenario that you come back in, you know, may be different. But like, you know, overall, you know, it's just like we're all a part of this same thing. And it's like, and if you look at like the same thing, meaning existence itself, it's like there is what exists. It's like we can all agree on that. You know, it's just like we all exist. You know, you think, therefore you exist. And because of that, this underlying notion, like that everything is a part of itself in the fact that it exists by that virtue, you know, it's just like it can be said that we are all a part of the same thing, the same event going on. And it's just like when you start to look at life and others, you know, in that way, they become less of an other, you know, and more of a brother and sister, you know, more of a different version of you, you know, because it's just like if you unravel all the super strings that are making this whole operation dance, if you purify the vibration, you know, down and unravel the entire thing, bet you anything that you would find that it's all connected. You know, it's just like scientists call it the unified field. There's a field that connects all things in the universe. And I bet you anything it goes far beyond just this universe. It goes and stretches and touches everything in existence. Everything that can be constructed is. It's like the math of eternity and infinity itself, you know, is intrinsically bound to itself. You know, it's just like everything that can occur must occur by virtue of the math of infinity. You know, it's just like if an equation is infinite and you can map everything that could energetically and physically occur, you know, because matter is just the slowest form of energy. It's just like you could map that. You know, you could run out an equation on that. And, you know, you could experience every possibility. You know, it would take an eternity to do so. But, you know, it's just like everything is a part of that mathematical sequence. You know, each and every moment is there in this continuum of time. And it's like, and I say continuum, but, you know, because of, you know, it's like, say you can take time out of the equation. It's just like, it's like the energy moves so fast that, time stops. It's just like, it's like if you speed up a car infinitely, it will disappear, but before it disappears, it seems to freeze. But getting back to the point, it's like you can see how, it's just like if you could see everything, in a static state, every event, it's just like you would understand that this quantum superposition of events, it's just like you're a part of that, and so is everybody else. And because of that, it's like everybody is necessary. Every moment, every terror, every love, every high point, every low point, every in and out, It's just like every time that you were sad, every time that you were happy is necessary for that continuum, that superposition to exist at all. If you take one thing out of a quantum superposition matrix, the entire thing collapses. It's like every possibility is needed to create that state, every outcome, every option. And so you are necessary for the whole. And, it's just like, well, it's like you're saying, Mitch, like, that means like every bad person, every bad choice, every war, every death, it's just like all of this is necessary. It's like in the math of eternity, yeah, it is. It's just like, then you ask, like, well, where's God in all this? Where's the overlying consciousness, it's supposed to stop all this from happening? It's just like, where's the intrinsic sense of good? And it's like, it's within you. Because good is a point of view. Bad is a point of view. It's a perspective. And a lot of times the people doing bad think that they're doing good. There are people in this world that believe that the population needs to be reduced for the entire human race to survive. And it's just like, most of us would say that is a bad thing. It's like, you're talking about killing a lot of people. And they would sit there and conversely say, well, it's just like, I foresee and have done my math, and my math says that if we keep going like this at this rate, there's not going to be any resources left. But it's just like, it all comes down to how many variables can you account for? What is your overriding motivation? What's deep down in your core? What's driving you? It's just like, as a species, it's like we need to have this conversation, and we're getting closer to it because of the advent of the internet. And this is why free speech is so important, because to have these conversations about good and bad and what's right and all this stuff, number one, we need to be able to talk to each other. Number two, we need to be able to express what we need to say. And number three, we need to be able to understand each other. And it's just like with like auto translations and video platforms and blog sites and all of this stuff, it's like that's starting to happen. And more often than not, it's like we find commonality with each other. But when we find that commonality, when we can see each other as each other, see another person as yourself, it's just like, that's when the magic starts to happen. But that's when the need for control goes away. That's when the need for hierarchy goes away. And so there are elements within our psyche, within consciousness, that have used that particular modality to further, itself. It's like, it's two different types of generating energy. Like, one is generative in that all these things come together and produce an oscillating flux of energy where it moves back and forth like a breath. And then the other is a consumptive form of energy. It's like where it is consuming and trying to control and trying to structure reality or others in terms of itself. It's putting itself on top and is consuming all others and then restructuring that energy to be like itself. And it's just like, at the end of the day, if you look into history, it's like that always leads to destruction, because at the end of the day, what that is, the last logical step is like when you have consumed everything, like I call it like the Dormammu consciousness, from Doctor Strange. It's like he's trying to consume the entire universe and become the one. It's just like, which is, it's a way to try to do that, but it's never more powerful than the connective experience. It's just like you're consuming to connect instead of using love to connect, using that respect. Like, this is like one of the oldest stories in the book. Like, it's just like in Christianity, it's the war in heaven. It's like Lucifer wants to control everybody, control everything. And he's like, glory be mine. He wants to dominate, to consume. He wants to be the pinnacle. And God's sitting there like, dude, it's like you're missing something. It's just like you're missing the fact that at the end of your plan, when there's nothing else to consume, you consume yourself. It's like every empire, every totalitarian dictatorship, every single one of them ends in disaster. It ends because it consumes itself. It rots from the inside. Because power without purpose is chaos. And when you're not using your power in the understanding that all of that you see is you, and you treat it like an other, and you're terrible to it, you try to control it, you try to hurt it, to use it. It's like when you do that, it's like your very nature, your very core rebels against you. And it's just like, and that's a lesson that humankind has been learning over and over and over again. And it's just like, and it's the conversations enabled by free speech, enabled by a free net of information, of knowledge, that allows us to love. Knowledge breeds love. It breeds connection. It allows us to understand why we connect, what we're doing this for. And at the end of the day, it's just like, that's what this is about. I'm good at talking, so I'm going to talk about this for as long as I can, for as long as everybody will have me. Because at the end of the day, it's just like, if you have not given all you can, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, why would you ever die with something left on the table? It's just like, not doing what you're meant to do is one of the biggest travesties. Not fulfilling your deepest purpose. It's just like you're an upwelling of consciousness that rose out of the void to be. It's just like, be the best you. Be as much of this form as you can. And then when it's done, lay it down and become something else. It's like, as a species, it's like we're so afraid of death. And it's like there's like this intrinsic obsession with wanting this all to go on, with desiring to have your soul, your intrinsic self, keep going. And it's just like that, to me, it's like I used to be obsessed with that whole immortality thing. Like, or it's just like, oh, I want to be in this form forever, because then I'll be able to, like, I'll have a sense of continuity. I'll understand more. And yeah, it's like long life, that's great, and I can definitely see the value in having a good long life and understanding as much about it as I can. But at the end of the day, we have eternity to figure this out. And it's like we're all bound intrinsically to existence. It's like everything is divided by one, It's just like it all goes back into the same pot. It's like all the pieces go back into the box at the end of the game, And it's just like, and then we rise again. And it's just like we have to, as a species, understand what our collective consciousness is so that we can overcome our fears and get on to the next step of evolution, of evolving our consciousness. It's just like, as whether you're, an evolutionist or a creationist, it's just like there are going to be next steps. It's just like whether you believe that that's us choosing, that us adapting, the universe itself doing it, or whether you believe the creator, has set out a plan, for us. And it's just like either way, it's just like whatever power is underpinning all of this, it's like it's a self-assembling mechanism. It's like whether you believe there's somebody at the controls or the thing itself is controlling, it's like all of us together, which is kind of in line with what I believe. And it's just like, yeah, there are powerful beings in existence, I believe. Do I believe it's coming from any one of them? No, I believe it's coming from all of them. I believe, like, the God consciousness it's a compendium, like a compilation of all things in existence, all intelligence, all awareness. And it's just like, it's like from the smallest atom to the largest universe, and whatever structures exist above universes. It's just like it goes on and on and on. It's like this is all fractals when you look at it. If you study the quantum realm, you'll kind of understand what I'm saying. But it's just like as above, so below. It's like that is one of the immutable concepts that exists within this universe, at least. And so we have to pay attention to that. We have to understand that, this all will go on no matter what. No matter what power is pushing it, it's like our job here is to be, adapt, evolve, and then teach that to the next generation of us, And the more that we see each other as separate, as other, as something that I can't connect with, it's like the more war we have, the more we set ourselves back. It's like, how many times throughout history have we sat here, gone to war, and destroyed everything that we have built? It's like, you take a look at the monoliths. Everybody argues about, like, who created them, whatever. Is it aliens? Is it us? What did that? It doesn't really matter. I believe it was us. But I believe it was us in a higher state of consciousness than we are now. I believe that we were able to build these things because we understood how to connect with each other and the universe, the knowledge within nature itself, better than we can today. It's like we look at ourselves as the pinnacle of existence, and we're not. It's just like, this is a blip on the radar of what could be achieved. It's like we haven't even got to the solar system yet. We haven't even got to the outside of this. Whether you believe it's a solar system, whether you believe it's flat, whatever, we haven't got outside of it, Just like say it's like I believe it's a solar system, a vast universe, but say you believe it's flat, what's outside the firmament? Have you ever thought about that? It's like let's play the devil's advocate. Let's go into the minutia of every thought system so that you can push it to completion, so you can push past the boundaries, because that's what we're really here to do, is push through into the next phase of consciousness. And it's just like, and that's what we're doing here on this podcast, is we're examining that. It's like, I'm definitely going to have some speakers on here and all sorts of peeps that, like we'll go over this, and hopefully this becomes a worldwide phenomenon. I trust that it will, because at the end of the day, it's like people, I think, want to love more than they want to fight. And right now, that's what we need. It's just like, we need Israel and Palestine to broker a peace. We need Ukraine and Russia to broker a peace. We need peace in this world and cooperation so that we can get on with actually what we're supposed to be doing. It's like, but not to say that war isn't what we're supposed to be doing, because it's part of our nature, but there's a balance in things. And it's like, we have been warring for thousands of years. It's like, to me, it's getting old. It's like, let's make something more. Let's make something better. It's like, let's educate the populace so that more creativity comes out. And the people in power are afraid of that, because I believe they're afraid that they won't be able to keep up. It's like they won't be able to control the flow of consciousness anymore. And they're right, but that's okay. They want to destroy the population anyways. It's like, that's the funny thing. That's the irony, is you're afraid of losing control, but you're prepared to destroy everything to retain control. It's like, you see the paradox there? It's like, you are living in a ring, my friend. And it's like, you need to snap out of it. It's just like, there's more on the other side of the mirror. It's just like, there's something else. There's more to see. There's more to do. There's more to experience. And that's what we're really going for. It's like, what else is out there? It's just like, can you imagine if we were able to colonize the solar system? What new dreams may come? Oh man, that makes me miss Robin Williams. But what dreams may come? What else is out there? Who else is out there? What other parts of ourselves are just waiting to be discovered? It's like, we need to shift our perspective inward instead of looking outward so much. Instead of looking at our differences, look at what unifies us as a culture. It's just like, as say aliens attack tomorrow. It's just like, I've had this conversation with hundreds of people. What would happen? Could we all come together? My belief is yes. It's just like in World War II. It's just like, there was an attack. What happened? The entire country came together in unity, and that was our greatest power. Despite all of the opposition, all of the differences, all of that, we were able to come together. Now, what if we could come together outside of war? Them apples. That's what I'm interested in. It's like, what if we could come together to create new energy sources? If China, Europe, the US, Africa, all of Asia came together to crack fusion power, they all shared their knowledge. It's like, what would happen then? What if we could get the FBI to release the Tesla documents so that we could harness atmospheric energy? Instead of using our electromagnetic prowess against the populace, what if we used it for our benefit? What if we used it to enhance mental signatures instead of disrupting them. So like, take a look at some of the patents, that the patent office has got regarding electromagnetic stimulus and brainwaves. But it's just like, it's pretty funky. And Tesla's got some quotes about the horrors that may arise. And it's just like, and that all comes, again, from trying to control, from trying to dominate. It's like you walk into a gym, there's always that guy, that's pretty big, but it's just like the energy coming off him is just, it's just like, he's there to feed his ego on everybody around him. It's like, my favorite thing to do in that situation is to love myself more, because it's when you don't love yourself that you become susceptible to being fed on, But it's just like, when you truly believe in yourself and you do not need outside validation to feel powerful. It's like they try to drink from that cup and it forces them to look inward. That's usually something they are not ready to do. But they get confused and they sit down, and it's just like, it calms them. Because at the end of the day, it's good for them. But it's very confusing, at first. But yeah, it's like, we've all seen that. We've all experienced it. It's like, I've definitely overcome parts of my ego that, I was not aware of at first. And it's just like, at the end of the day, that's a very important thing, it's just like to accept the process, to accept that nobody's perfect, that we're perfectly imperfect for the reason a puzzle is perfectly imperfect. The reason there are divisions within a puzzle is so that you can put it all back together. It's like the reason the universe is divided into matter instead of being a soup of energy is so that it can put itself back together at the end of the day. So that it can pull itself apart, take a look, experience it, love it, hate it, everything in between, and then come back together. It's an oscillation, it's a breath. It's the reason why we die, I think. Because it allows us to sleep. It allows us to take a little break. And that nourishes consciousness. It's like the same reason we need a vacation. It's just like, I'm just going to relax and not think about this for a quick minute, and I'm back. All right. And I'm ready to go on with it. Without that, if you're just sitting there just screaming into the void, all the energy in the universe running through you for all time, it's like, you're going to go insane, boy. And it's just like, it's that kind of mentality that we got to overcome. It's like, it's that kind of mentality that we got to learn to flow with. It's like, we have to learn to let go of power when we're done using it. When the objective is complete, it's like, be okay with the simplicity of just living. It's like, when all of the bridges are built and the structures are built, enjoy it, live. Make sure that everybody has a piece. Nobody feels that marginalization. It's like, we have the technology, knowledge, and power to do this. To make sure that nobody goes hungry. Yet we use most of our resources on war. It's like, we marginalize certain countries so that other countries can prosper. It's like, what is the thinking in that? Again, it's the pyramid. It's the thing on the dollar. It's the all-seeing eye up at the top. The guy that wants to dominate and consume all. There can only be one Highlander. It's just like, they need to reconfigure the perspective. That it's like, it's not a pyramid, it's a sunflower. It's like, it's a whole bunch of nodes of consciousness that can pass energy along the connections between everybody that creates the overall oneness. And that's the reason why good, or love, always triumphs, because that kind of energy doesn't need to consume itself. It just breathes with itself. It's sustainable. It goes on. It's generous with itself. It doesn't take more than it needs. Because really, what are you going to do with it? It's just like you have like a mansion. It's like, oh, cool, I got a mansion with 50 rooms. It's like the Rockefeller mansion, for example. It's like got so many rooms. But it's like, what do you do with all that? It's like you get lost in that house. I would feel lonely, just sitting in that house, like just big old house, and I got like, like maybe 20 people tops, like, and then staff, which you never talk to because you think you're better. It's just like, what's the point of that? So, I feel cool. It's like I'm trying to cultivate a feeling of being better than everybody else. It's like, instead of connecting with everyone better, it's just like, you see the difference? It's like, even in the sentence structure, it's just like, it's almost the same thing, but the relation of the words is shifted. The perspective on those words is shifted. And it's like, and that's really what this podcast is about, is changing how we see ourselves. All of us, not just some of us. And it's just like, and I want to be able to understand every perspective from the very highest to the very lowest. One not being better than the other, because it's like thinking that the beginning is better than the end. It's just like, you have to look at it holistically. It's like, there was this movie, I think it was called Arrival, and it's just like, and they were talking about the way that the aliens structured their language. It allowed them to perceive differently so that they could see time in its fullness. They could see their entire lives, because instead of looking at time linearly and structuring their language linearly, they structured it cyclically. It's like the shape of their letters, the shape of their characters were circles, And it's just like, and instead of looking at it like, oh, at this point in time, this is what I'm doing, it's like they were structuring it from the beginning and the end, and then meeting in the middle where you're at. It's just like, what if we could do that? Not look at anything as better or worse, but look at its place in the whole, and then see where it's going to go next. Amplify it into that next phase so that everything shifts with it. Maximal energy output. It's like, that's the shit. That's the good stuff. Pardon my français. But that's what we're really going for. And it's just like, as a species, we now have the ability to do this, and we're at the precipice of being able to unlock that next phase, or fall back into the mediocrity that we have been cyclically experiencing for the last 5,000 years, maybe longer. It's like, I want to get back to the age of the pyramids, where we could shape stone, lift it, where we could cure disease in a heartbeat because we shared information, knowledge. It's like, I want to get to the place in evolution where our energy, our mindset creates with a thought. It's like, I believe that everything that can be thought can be done under the right circumstances. Elsewise, why would it exist as a thought at all? Maybe it can't be done in this time or space now, but somewhere within existence, that structure of energy within my mind or within your mind can exist. As above, so below. Everything's a fractal. If there's a structure of energy that can exist within the mind, then it can exist in material form under the right influences. So it's just food for thought, It's just like, this is a podcast meant to stimulate how you see the world. We're going to definitely have some guests and everything, and we're going to have a bunch of great people, to talk to, including myself, toot my own horn a little bit. But, it's just like, we're going to get on with that. And we're going to we're going to excel at connecting the world back to itself. It's like, I want to serve the world, and this is the way that I know how. It's like, I've tried to serve the world many different ways, and I've met blocks at the end of many different roads. Now it drives my dad nuts. He's like, dude, just pick one thing and stick to it. I'm like, Dad, it's a little bit more complex than that for me. It's just like, and I think that I've gone over so many different life paths and experienced so many different things and gone on so many different journeys and failed so many different times so that I could experience this success, which is to speak what I have inside, to teach what I know, to give this thought pattern out, so that more people can augment their thoughts. More people can have more ammo in the fight against fear. More people can learn to connect. More people can have those relationships that they came down here to have, It's just like, we're mammals. It's just like, we need each other. It's just like, you ever see a dude in solitary? They go crazy, man. And that's because we need each other. It's like, and at the end of the day, that is the message for this podcast. We need each other. Until next time, on Love and Knowledge, I have been your host, Mitchell Prettyman. Good night from Phoenix, Arizona.